Now let's talk about the latest developments in technology and upcoming trends accelerating the trading industry. Please welcome on stage our moderator, Ankit Shah, Global Head of Fintech at GTN, who will introduce his panel. Let's give him a warm welcome.
Thank you, everyone. So I just wanted to take one moment and let everybody kind of introduce themselves. We can literally just go in line. You can start off, Ran.
Hi, everyone, and good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here, and I think that we have a very interesting topic. My name is Strauss, and I'm the founder and the CEO of Leverate.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. I'm Wassim Khateeb. I'm Chief Commercial Officer at FXCUBIC. We provide softwares for bridging, aggregation, risk management, and reporting in general. Thank you.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm sure you're having a nice time. I am Dr. Yakubu Ishaku, the CEO of Kwakol Markets. We are a multi-asset broker. We offer a range of services, but our main focus is CFDs. So we're an online broker for CFD trading.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So I wanted to let you all into a little bit of a secret before we start. I think the key thing that we want to kind of highlight here, and it's something that everyone should know, is that the entire list of questions that we've brought out today actually was generated through ChatGPT. So I went into ChatGPT and I literally asked, I'm hosting a panel discussion. This is the topic. Can you give me 10 questions? Out of those 10 questions, we have chosen 7. So full disclaimer, all the questions that you will have today that I'm going to be asking have been brought out from ChatGPT. So, all right, so let's really start with the first one. I think, what we want to try to understand is, what role do you see GPT AI playing in the future of financial services? And in all of your experiences, how have you experienced adoption of ChatGPT that basically has helped you to kind of drive innovation? We can start off with you, Ran.
So when looking from the broker side of view, I would say that we're already starting to see adoption of GPT, mainly in content creation and graphic designs. Whether you're familiar with the Midjourney or not, I really recommend you to start using it. It's amazing. Now, for the clients themselves, what we see is ChatGPT is a chat. So the ability for a trader to chat with a very, very smart engine, to get a customer service, to get a constant feedback on everything that he does, I believe that has a great benefit for the brokers and for the traders. When I think about the adoption of GPT within Leverate, I have to admit that at first we had to force it a bit. And slowly, what we saw is that we started using it so much, we had to actually subscribe for more than one user because it has a limitation for number of calls. So at the moment, the experience that we see is we are using it to empower what we are doing on a daily basis, mainly around marketing department, like I said before, but also with R&D and a bit with HR.
That's super interesting. By the way, I really heard about this quite recently, that there are certain companies now that are mandating ChatGPT as one of the talents that you need to have, right? So anyways, continuing, Wassim, if you can tell us a little bit more about your thoughts.
Yes, sure. So I also have a secret, by the way. I prepare my replies using ChatGPT, and it was the very first time I used it, believe it or not. Because I had that conflict within myself. Is it really an ethical, a moral tool to use? Is it not a border that we don't want to cross? Because there is clearly a distinction between artificial intelligence, which is something we're using for a long time. Even at FXCUBIC, we have tools to analyze large amount of data, to analyze trading behaviors, which is artificial intelligence. But ChatGPT is actually a step forward because it's giving the possibility to the machines to learn, to think, and to decide with a minimum of control. And that by itself is a new paradigm that is very different from the artificial intelligence that, to reply to your questions, has many, many uses that can be deployed in the compliance side, in the business, in the hyper-personalization, in the marketing, in the analysis of data in general, in so many different factors. And I think we, at FXCUBIC or at other companies, we're still trying to figure out where can we use it to add value, but not lose the control in the same time. And I think that's a really important question that we should be debating today. And it's a responsibility we all have as panelists, as industry leaders, to say, yeah, where are we going? We want to make sure that this is okay, moral, and controllable.
I mean, there's a famous movie which most of the people over here would have watched, Minority Report. It kind of really tells us what AI is capable of doing. So you do need to be very careful when you deal with it as well. But Dr. Yakubu, if you could give us a little bit of your insight as well.
Okay, thank you so much. I mean, just like my other panelists have mentioned, when you look at the use case of GPT in trading, it can have a use case both on the broker perspective as well as the trader perspective. So one of the panelists have already given certain insights on how it can be useful on a broker side in terms of marketing, creating pitch, compliance, and all of you. But also, when it comes to retail trading, a lot of it has to do with analysis of data. Be it you're a fundamental trader, a technical analyst, you are looking at what has happened in the past and how the markets would react to these different possibilities. So in that kind of case, I see it being very useful and something handy for traders, and especially traders that trade in communities as well as individual traders. Sometimes they might just need to have a reflection or a possibility of what could be a possible scenario in the market or how market reacted to certain events. So yeah, we can see ChatGPT bridge that gap. But also to mention that whatsoever this AI use is based on the information that we give to it. So we have to look at the information that is being given to the AI. Is it reliable? Is it unbiased? Is it something that can be trusted? And also, we have to constantly evaluate to know what exactly is this thing doing, just to make sure it doesn't get off the boundaries.
I mean, that's definitely an interesting take by all three of you. It kind of leads us into the next question too, right? So what are some of the potential risks and challenges that are associated with using ChatGPT or GPT AI for the financial services field? And how do you think that these different risks can get mitigated? What's been your experience? Where do you guys think that something could go wrong?
I would touch a few. The first one I would say is bugs. At the end of the day, GPT is still a computer, and when we're using computers, we have bugs. And when I look at another industry, let's take, for example, with car accidents. Every day we have endless amount of car accidents. But when there is a car accident by Tesla, we tend to get sometimes overexcited. And we don't think about how many lives the computer actually saved. So the first one is obviously bugs. But on the other hand, let's not get too much excited because of that. The second one, I think that my colleague here mentioned, GPT is pre-trained. We actually train our models based on data, and we must make sure that the data itself is not biased and is correct in any way. The last one, and very important one, is differentiation and diversification between companies and products. Today, we enjoy from such a differentiation between companies because of different culture and clients and teams. But when everyone is going to use the same top or three engines of GPT, I would like to see us not leaving the creativity that we have so much, and that we will use it just to empower creativity, not to replace it or to hurt it in any way.
That's definitely a very, very interesting take.
It is, yes. I fully agree with Ran's points. I don't want to be repetitive and repeat again that, yes, technical problems can happen. It's a bot, it's a software. I think there is the morality implications that we discussed, and as Yakubu said, we need to control what data we are feeding into the bot, also to know what results to expect from it. If I wanted to add one thing about the risk, specifically, it's the potential risk large use of ChatGPT can have on the workforce and on the employment market in general. Because, let's say things clearly, jobs will disappear and the bot will take a very big part from tasks that are being used by especially small hands within the industry. And that will probably adjust over time, but at first it will come with some economic downturns, an increase of unemployment probably until the workforce market adapt. And I think that's a considerable risk that should be taken in consideration, maybe not by each individual company, but on a larger scales by regulators, governments, and decision makers.
So, I mean, this is one of the questions that we want to ask as well, but you do believe that GPT AI will have an impact on jobs?
Yes, I'm certain.
That's interesting. Okay. Well, we'll debate that at a later stage as well, but it's something that I definitely do want to discuss a little bit more in detail. Dr. Yakubu, if you could.
Yes, I mean, one of the things we're looking at is whether it's how ethical the use of GPT in the financial sector. So I will take up from where he stopped. I think one thing that will be important is regulation. If we're able to set guidelines on how this can be used in the financial market. So the financial market is already used as a sector that is heavily regulated and is accustomed to regulations as well. So that can also be incorporated in GPT, which would, of course, help the industry at large. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, also taking out time to evaluate what this AI is doing, just to make sure that the data that it's working on is transparent enough that we are not just having one side of the story. So when all of that is transparent and there are guidelines to its use, I believe it's going to impact the industry in a very positive way.
Just to continue on what Yakubu said, which I fully agreed on, to add to the regulatory dimension of it, I think that it should not only be regulated by individual countries on how to use the ChatGPT, like it's the case with retail or brokerage regulations in the financial markets, in which you kind of have different rules in each country. I think this time we should start with harmonization in mind between different jurisdictions, between globally all over, because the world is more and more interconnected, and if a regulation is more flexible than another, or a certain jurisdictions is leaving certain loopholes on the way of how to using, this is going to be used by whether it's brokers or investment firms in general. So yes, it should be regulated, and this regulation should be harmonized between different regulatory landscapes.
I think this is interesting because it's kind of, you're saying that you get what you feed, right? So if you're giving it information, it's giving you back information based off of this, and it's capturing that, it's learning along the way. But at the same time, what you're saying is that we should also, in a way, take advantage of it and try to work in a harmonized fashion so that the overall industry can benefit from it. All right, so this brings us to kind of like the third question. How do you think financial institutions like ourselves can utilize ChatGPT improve the customer experience and drive engagement, right? So today, if you are, and in this one, I'm going to ask Dr. Yakubu to start because he has a retail trading app, and I would like to really hear from you. How would you utilize ChatGPT AI to drive customer engagement? And then, we can move backwards.
Okay, thank you. I mean, especially for us in the retail space, without even thinking of it, one of the areas I will say GPT would be very helpful is in the area of customer support. Now, especially for retail clients, what they would always want is prompt response, immediate response. They want to know, be it your product, be it a situation that they need to solve with your support. So GPT is able to make that happen in real time. So it's already trained, it's accustomed with your product. I'm sure we already have chatbots who are currently doing something in that regard and helping a great deal. But then when you look at the ability to really now train the AI, educate the AI, and give the AI the possibility to think, it's going to take the customer support to another level. Another aspect is also client education as well as the client retention, being able to keep the conversation engaging, where we can have these AIs understand market events, are able to give market reviews in real time, analyze events such as earnings, like today we have the CPI, it being able to deliver that information to clients in that personalized manner, and then keep the engagement ongoing. So it's a possibility and something that especially people in the retail space like us can take very much advantage of.
That's interesting. And Wassim, you have basically a bridge that connects retail apps that want to offer access to trading markets, etc. So in your experience, how would you be able to support these retail trading apps, and improve or help them improve the customer experience of the end user?
Yes, thank you. So hyper-personalization is the key word here on how ChatGPT can enhance business processes by analyzing behaviors, data, on customizing the message that goes out from companies to the possible prospect. I actually think that the applications are even more promising on the B2B sector than on the retail sector, for the simple reason that the relationship is longer in general. And what is hyper-personalization is analyzing the past behavior, the past interactions that we had with customers on the long term in order to adjust our offering. And if the life cycle of a retail trader is a few months, the life cycle of a broker for a company like us is a few years. So we'll have a larger amount of data to collect and to use for hyper-personalization.
So basically it comes back to the same thing, feed to get, right? So you're going to keep feeding it data and receiving responses through that.
Yes, on personalize the message based on that data, yes indeed.
Interesting. Ran, what about you?
We are talking about engagement and satisfaction. For satisfaction, let's think about what our client, what do they want? They want to get a great product and a great service. Usually that's the case, and a great price. And for a great product, I would say that using GPT just for QA can be a game changer. And companies will be able to give their clients a much better product, a more mature one. For the service itself, I don't want to repeat everything that was said before. I would just say that I fully agree. The ability to give something in zero time, no delays, 24/7 is a game changer. Because usually when I'm using any service and I have a question, I have to wait a day or two. Sometimes I get an answer that is not in my own language. So that's a huge game changer. For the engagement itself, and this is something that we already started working in Leverate, just imagine the change that marketing automation will go through when using GPT. today, the best marketing automation is based on micro-segmentations. So it means that you are not an individual, you are always within a group. And once you build a marketing automation machine based on GPT with personalization, no delays, around the clock, I think that it will dramatically increase engagement.
Just if I can add something, I think one of the implications will also be that it will change the reports between competitors in the different spheres in the financial technology. To give an example, we're a fintech company, we provide services to brokers, and we are doing it in a certain way that in many aspects is similar to the competition, but in many aspects is not, and it's proper to our way of doing business. Now, when we are interacting with an open source software that gathers the information, saves it, and communicates with other executives from the competition or not, this kind of inherent processes for each one of the companies will actually become kind of public more and accessible more, and that in a way will change the report on the relationships between competitors, in the sense that business practices will be more open. We will know how the competition is doing things, and they will know how we are doing things. So yes, there is the hyper-personalization part, but you kind of miss part of the customization in which you are creating a competitive advantage, and I think that's an important point as well to consider.
I think it takes us back to the same thing, that we want to stick to creativity and not just make things generalized using it, right? The next question is controversial. So definitely please give us your responses based on what you truly believe. What impact do you think ChatGPT or GPT AI will have on the job market in the financial services industry specifically? And how can companies ensure that their employees are prepared for these changes? And I might want to throw in one more thing. How can we ensure that our kids or the future generation is prepared for this, right? Because it's coming. You can't stop it, right? So
I'm sure that there won't be as many that will tell you that jobs won't get lost, right? So hundreds of millions of jobs will get lost in the very near future. We are already starting to see this. At the same time, more will open. And if someone will ask me today, what should I learn tomorrow, or what skills should I add, it would probably be around GPT and AI. But let's talk about ourselves. Okay, and what we can do within our own companies, within our own organizations. And I think that it starts with education. Once you educate your teams that using GPT engines would actually empower them and improve productivity and will act as a true multiplier for the business, you will see that, first of all, we are not afraid of using it. We will implement it more openly. And the only thing that we need to think of is, like we said before, to use it in a very responsible way.
yeah, I mean, that's interesting. What I understand is that this is something that is going to have an impact, like you mentioned, right? But at the same time, it will also create new opportunities. So, Wassim.
It will have a negative impact, yes, on certain departments more than on others. I think the first one to be affected will be customer support, like Dr. Yakubu said. But also in sales, in marketing, in coding, in several disciplines, yes, the market will adjust and new opportunities will be created. But I'm asking you, which opportunities exactly? Let's look at other disrupting things, blockchain or the internet. They came with the internet specifically, with a lot of new companies, a lot of new startup emerging in the sphere. Do you see that much in in ChatGPT or any of its competitors? I don't see. I see 2-3 big companies controlling the majority of it. I don't know how much room it will be to create extra jobs, and what is the level of qualifications that will be needed for these extra jobs. Because if you take the job of a customer support, you can't reattribute him on head of development, for example, or on coding. So I'm really perplexed about the possibilities that it can bring. And I think regulators, again, governments, have a card to play here, which can be through simple rules saying that you need to maintain a minimum amount of human employees on each department, or you cannot rely fully on the bot for certain tasks. But we can't really wait for the market to adapt by itself for the workforce to be redirected to different sectors. I think there should be, especially on that disruptive new technology, there should be a government intervention there in order to keep people, also the unemployment market, as healthy as possible.
But the only question I have for you is, do you think GPT AI, and this may be, I can't add in an extra question here, but do you think GPT AI itself has emotional intelligence? My assumption is no. And therefore, in certain roles, at certain points, a human being will always be required. Whether it is in customer service, whether it is in sales, in marketing, in anything. Because it is an AI, it doesn't have any sort of emotional intelligence. And therefore, when you're speaking with a customer, for example, right, would you...
I think the right word is instinct, actually, and that's what they will always be missing. Now it really depends on the disciplines, on the job. I personally function a lot by instinct, and I think that is something that the bot will never really get there. But that's just a small part of what an executive or any worker is delivering, and a big part of the automated job which is done currently will disappear, unfortunately.
Right. Dr. Yakubu.
Yeah, I'm also of the opinion that despite the fact that some individuals would lose their job, but it's also going to create new opportunities, because it's a software. We need people to properly feed this software. We need people to constantly maintain this software. So it will create opportunities in that regard. And then I also see scenarios where it's going to be a skill that certain individuals would require. A company might be, this position is open, and then we're looking for people who are familiar with GPT in such and such a way. Yes, so despite the fact that opportunities would be there, we cannot totally eliminate the value of humans in certain roles, because you have to bring emotions into it, instinct into it, as we discuss. So as we look at the space unfold, I would say what individuals need to do is to ensure that they are well acquainted with the trend, in such a way that when the opportunity presents itself, you would be ready as an individual.
Right. Yeah, I think the one thing I've seen is that if you feed GPT AI a code that has bug in it, it immediately finds the bug for you, and that it's super interesting. All right, so moving on to our last question for today's panel, because we have exactly 8 minutes left. How can ChatGPT add future value to dealing desks, trading platforms, wealth management platforms, retail platforms, etc.? Wassim, why don't we start with you for this one?
Sure. So I think most of them were mentioned already, but certainly there are many different disciplines or dimensions that will have the potential to improve using ChatGPT. The first one, and the more clear one, is the customer support, probably. The marketing in terms of hyper-personalization, which is also something we discussed. The development, the coding, hopefully the legal aspects on how to control also what is inputted into the bot and what are the results of it in general. We use artificial intelligence in our software for a long time, not machine learning, but artificial intelligence by analyzing very large amounts of data on trading behavior and kind of making forecasts about what will be the next trends. So hyper personalization, customer support, marketing, and it's a disruptive technology. So most of the things that we are currently used to will change in a way, will evolve, and we just hope that evolution will be positive.
Dr. Yakubu, if you'd like to.
Yeah, so one of the aspects I'm looking at is, ability for a lot of things to be automated on the retail side. So we've seen traders use a lot of algorithms when it comes to trading, programming and developing bots. I see that happening much more now because with GPT technology, they are able to analyze different trends, different strategies, as well as analyze a whole lot of these robots and possibly come up with some, just as we see asset managers selecting certain kinds of asset classes in a portfolio, that could also happen to trading algorithms where this GPT, handpicks certain algorithm and mixes them in a portfolio to create something unique. So all these are possibilities and how people on the retail side can take advantage of the technology.
Perfect, Ran.
So I don't want to repeat too much because I think that my colleagues touched all the relevant points. I would just add that the combination of the current teams that we have, the human power plus GPT can bring us to a whole different level, and it's sometimes it will allow us to focus maybe more on creativity and less on repetitive work that we do every day. At the same time, this combination, for example, when it comes to risk management, will allow us probably to, I hope that we'll be able to prepare more for any event that will come.
Perfect, interesting. So I think, this brings us to an end for the few questions that we had prepared for you guys. We have a couple of minutes. I'd like to open up the floor for any questions. If anybody has questions, then, we can have the panelists address them. There's a gentleman at the back who has a question.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me? Okay, excellent. Observation. When I interact with ChatGPT, the discussions around ChatGPT, isn't the fear based on the fact that it democratizes information to information access to people that traditionally wouldn't have gone as in the long path? Let me give like an example. If you need to understand, for instance, trade secrets or trade strategies, it will be faster to educate someone using ChatGPT as a co-pilot, which is information that probably some brokers actually use. Isn't the fear then being that the job replacement isn't the job replacement of analysts, right? But it's a job replacement in terms of access to information for the masses. That's basically an observation that I'm trying to do, and I'm trying to get your mind basically on that. That isn't it an advantage to have people having access to this information via these ChatGPT engines because it's not gate-kept. It's actually information that is accessible to everyone.
Any of you? I think the question is that ChatGPT doesn't really have any boundaries. I think that's what you're trying to say, right? So effectively, how can one kind of protect that, especially in terms of data, research, etc.?
Can you please repeat the question? Because I thought he was speaking about the analysts and whether it will have an effect on the workforce.
Yeah. He's talking about when we talked about it's going to be a threat to a lot of jobs. So he's saying it might not be on the analyst side, but the masses, people that individuals usually go to for information. So it would no longer be necessary probably to interact with an IB, an educator, to learn about a trading strategy. I can easily go to GPT and have access to that information.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is getting the information more accessible and quickly accessible in order to decide on how to use this information for trading behavior and to analyze the markets on the right time to place trades. So that is, I think, one of the main purpose of having a tool that is open to the public, that gathers the information, that processes it, and that gives advice, and that certainly will directly affect the need of having market analysts into whether it's for retail or institutional operations in the financial markets.
I think that we touched before the impact of GPT on the job market. But at the end of the day, if I can get a better service from using a GPT engine, if I can get a better analysis from a GPT engine, as a client, this is where I would like to be. I don't want to be in a position that I'm getting support from a human just because any regulator forced the company to give me support from a human. I want to get the best product I can with the best service. And I think that the whole idea of open information, no boundaries, this will only do good for the world and will just improve whatever we have to offer.
Yeah.
There is actually, just to complement on the question, an interesting study by Accenture says that financial industry will optimize profitability in the next 7 years by 2030 for another 38%. So where is this 38% really coming from?
Profitability.
Profitability. So is it increasing trading volume? Is it increasing the accuracy of the trades themselves? Or is it cutting the costs like analysts and other intermediaries that were feeding information to traders and brokers until nowadays? So there will be a big optimization process coming, and ChatGPT will play a major role on that, and it will also affect not only market analysts but the workforce in general.
I mean, if that does happen, by the way, you're saying 38% on an average, profitability goes up, which basically means costs have gone down. The end user is more satisfied because they're getting satisfactory, quicker responses. But at the same time, people are effectively losing their jobs, right?
There are two sides on the coin.
There are two sides to the coin, right? All right. Does anybody else have any other questions? We have probably just one more question that we can take. There's one gentleman at the back.
I think just to comment, because I have to disagree with something that was said, so I'd like to hear your feedback regarding the job issue and the jobs that are going and everything else. If we look back at history, look at any factory. When they brought in technology and robots, they said that jobs were going to go out the window. When the internet came on board, everyone said, okay, it's going to take our jobs, it's going to stop this. And what we're really seeing is we're seeing an increase in information, of freedom of information, in improvement in services provided, improvement in everything we're doing. And I think society has shown us that we know how to develop and we know how to evolve into new situations. And I would say that some of the hysteria about GPT is over the top. I think you can forget governments ever doing it, because governments have one thing that they want to do, and that's stay in power. And if they can put lies through GPT, they will, so you can forget about that. But I think the way society evolves is that, yes, in the short term, we might lose some jobs in the support, and we might lose this, but at the end of the day, we're going to find new jobs, because that's what we do. That's what society has done throughout history, and that's what technology has allowed us to do, and that's what we've seen all along. And so to say that sort of we're going to lose huge jobs, I think we're jumping the gun just a little bit. And I'd like to hear your feedback.
So I'll just say one thing before I pass it on to you guys. I do kind of agree with you, by the way, that we're forgetting the fact that human beings, at the end of the day, have always adapted, right? So I don't disagree with you on that, but I think what we were trying to portray was that there will be an impact. And that impact may not be permanent, but there will be an impact in the short run. But please, go ahead.
So I'm quite positive that at the end of the day we will have a better world. So in this part I would say I'm optimistic. At the same time I do see the problem that comes with GPT. I think that it's a revolution, that it's still very early to know what's going to happen tomorrow. I can see that it's coming quite fast. I think that it's something that the regulators will not be here to control. They will do whatever they always do. At first they will ignore, then they will block, and then they will regulate. And we, as organizations, we have the responsibility to use it and to use it in the most proper way.
So thanks for the constructive comment. I am not underestimating the capacity of us human beings to adapt and to restructure the workforce market. And this is what you said, that maybe on the short term the implications will be more visible and that will balance on the long term. So first of all, what is short term? Is it months, years, decades? This is one of the parameters to consider. And I think readjusting the workforce market on this disruptive part of this new era that is coming will take more time than other examples that you mentioned and we mentioned in the panel, like internet and other implications. But even on the readaptation of the workforce market, and let's take specifically the internet factor. Yes, people lost jobs in the beginning, and then new companies came. To take the example, for example, Amazon, they created a new business process that employed a lot of people. But the post guy, the farmer, the one that is doing the packaging, and all of these people that lost their job because of companies like Amazon, because of new technologies, it's not them that found a new job. It's a new generation after them. It's probably more qualified workforce. So we can't say that the workforce market will readjust in the sense that a customer support person losing a job in a forex broker will become an expert in development or in ChatGPT within several months. The shift will take time, and not everyone will be able to shift, and this is my main worry, and this is what I wanted to express.
Right. So, sorry guys, we have run a little bit way over time. So we will end the panel discussion over here. But that's why I mentioned question number 4 is a very controversial question. But I'm happy that we had that discussion. Thank you so much for that question as well. And I'd like to thank everyone for attending today's panel discussion.
Thank you, everyone.